I know Nancy said she probably wouldn't be here because she's still traveling.
Okay.
But I'm not sure about Connie, Desiree, or Vicky, so maybe they'll come on later.
Yeah, sometimes it takes them a minute or two. You can try texting, and who knows, and things come up.
Right. So were you guys on the talk with the consortium talk with Patty the other night?
Yes.
Okay.
I was.
So can you see my screen? Can you see the PowerPoint on the screen?
No.
No.
No?
Mm-mm.
How do I do this?
It says waiting to view Patty DeGangi's screen. So you can go see up at the top. Let's see if we can change present.
The screen? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, it doesn't show me.
Start sharing my screen.
Yeah. Up the top, it says screen sharing.
Yeah.
And it has an arrow that says show main screen. Let's try clicking on that. There you go.
Everybody can see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, like she said, we're trying to find the recipe for success. And so our group is to remove the provider language for the codes. And I guess we'll just ask each other questions as we go along. Everything is on the Dropbox, so you'll have access to this tomorrow. I'll get it up to Patty, and then we can access everything off the Dropbox. These are the liaison groups. You know about that. Let me get to the, and Patty Beeson is our mentor, so, she can help us with anything that we have questions on. These are the other groups that we have. Again, those are on the Dropbox issue area. And have you worked with this coalition situation before, anyone?
I believe I recognize it from the consortium's information from last year, right before they submitted this last batch of codes.
Okay.
Isn't that where the language of the code goes and any changes get made through that on that document? I think it looks familiar.
And I guess somebody else is going to be filling this out. Is that right, Patty?
Actually, I think we may end up filling it out, although we can always get it checked.
Okay.
And I think they're pretty self-explanatory, but yes,
okay.
We can also get help with that.
Now, when she said coalition, does she mean she wants us to get professional groups involved?
What they're looking for is, yes, possible other groups that might join with us and say, yeah, we'll stand with you on this one. whether it's anybody that's on the code maintenance committee or even somebody who's not on the code maintenance committee. If there are other groups out there who want to see some of these changes happen or who have experienced issues with this whole provider language thing, anybody that we can have join with us, yeah, if you know somebody or you're part of another group, absolutely, if they're willing to stand with us and also either testify or at least be willing to put their name down for something, yeah, that's what we want. Ideally, somebody who's on the code maintenance committee or someone who's one of the carriers, because they're also on the code maintenance committee, or the public health people, or whoever else is on there. Yeah.
So can I, a quick question. I'm wondering specifically, what are we tasked with doing?
Down here, we're tasked with trying to remove the provider type language.
Okay.
The goal is to review the CDD codes, any provider type language, and find substitute title more appropriate for those that perform the treatment, like dental professional instead of dentist.
Right. Okay.
That type of thing. So,
Okay.
so dental professional in accordance with state practice acts, or another choice we come up with, and they said to stay consistent with other CDT codes. They like consistency at the CMC. So that's basically
Yes.
our main goal. Patty and Patty were saying that the state law trumps the CDD code, so the groups need to find out how all the where there's inconsistency in the code, and maybe we can have a discussion as to why this causes problems. To try and find a consistency throughout the code of, the reason that this ability is given to a provider, not just a dentist.
All right.
Patty,
Okay.
you were also saying something about payment. Do they have to be a provider themselves, or can it just be a dental professional according to state practice act?
Who are you asking? You're asking me?
Patty Beeson. Sorry. Or Natalie, do you know?
I do not know. I do know that some things do get billed out under me as a licensed assistant.
Okay.
As the one that performs the service, but the billing provider is always a dentist for dental assistants and hygienists and some dental therapists in Minnesota. I do the billing, so I'm very familiar with it.
Gotcha.
Natalie, it says in the preface in the CDT, or not just Natalie, all of you, it says general practitioners, specialists, and other individuals may report any of the listed CDT codes as long as they are delivering procedures and services within the scope of their state law. So the question is, why bother to have somebody's title in there in the first place? Like, it doesn't matter whether it says dentist, therapist, and let's face it, there's dental therapists, there's advanced dental hygiene practitioners. You can't list them all. But why would you even list one? Like, why would you list dentist if the dentist does this? If the provider does this, whoever it is. And I guess that's part of the inconsistency. Because if you start looking through the codes themselves, the evaluation codes are always the dentist. But there's a lot of other ones too. And some states, a hygienist or a therapist or an advanced practitioner can submit an evaluation code because a practice act says that they can. and it gets way too confusing. So that was part of the whole thing. Like, let's make it consistent. You try, and they say they want consistency, but they don't do it. So that was part of the thing. So if you start looking through this, the code book, you actually start seeing some of the things where they start talking more about the dentist. Sometimes they talk about the procedure, and there's supposed to be procedure codes, but they still talk about the provider. Like, if you're talking about a procedure, you don't have to talk about the provider. And really, all we want is consistency. I don't know how to do that. I don't know exactly how to do that in a code. But, yeah. Like it says, anesthesia. Anesthesia time begins when the doctor administering the anesthetic agent initiates the appropriate anesthesia. And it's like, oh, maybe it is the doctor, but maybe it's not.
I mean, in that case, yeah, hygienists can inject. So why wouldn't it just say like licensed professional?
Or it might be a nurse anesthetist. If it's actual sedation, it might be a nurse anesthetist. Sorry about my dog.
Right. So, I mean, just by licensed professional, that doesn't restrict them to being a medical person. It could be an RN or something like you say, or an anesthesiologist, perhaps, if they're there for an oral surgery.
Specialty. A new specialty for dental anesthesiologist.
Wow, that would be a good gig for somebody that wants to travel.
Uh-huh. And doesn't want to talk to their patients much.
Exactly. But that's why you're an anesthesiologist.
That's right. That could be a good thing sometimes.
Say it's counting backwards from 1 to 10. It's great.
Especially if you can't get the numbers any higher. You know, what are you going to do? But yeah, anyway, so there's all that kind of stuff in here. And when you start looking through it, it starts popping out at you. It's like, oh my God, why would they do this?
So I was looking through, and there's 12 sections. Obviously the diagnostic evaluations are probably the largest group where, the dentist is mentioned.
Ugh.
But do we divide them all up, or do we try and find which ones apply, which codes are the ones that apply to changing, the provider language? How do you want to do that?
Well, if I can make a suggestion.
Sure.
It's really, I mean, some of these codes are to the nth degree, and some are really, really vague. I mean, we all know that.
Correct. Yeah.
In teaching risk management, I talk a lot about codes.
Uh-huh.
So what I would suggest is breaking it up kind of section by section.
Okay.
I can take care of like the diagnostic and the preventive section if you would like, only because I've already done a lot of research on that, and I've got slide after slide after slide of PowerPoint that I train with on those. So it wouldn't be double effort on someone's time.
Correct.
It wouldn't have done it. So I'm just offering that. I'll go wherever you be, for sure. Anything you want me to do.
Yeah.
Just
However,
get all the effort on that, because I've got all that, already, and most others too. But just a thought.
So
that's good. We can either take more than one person can work on it, or however we, because I know everybody is busy, and then we meet again next week. So I can take restorative and endo if you want. Does anybody else have choices?
And I
I
teach
can take
all of these.
I can
so
take adjunctive general services since I work with a lot of it in the office.
Okay.
You guys are awesome.
I can do perio and prosto removable and prosto fixed.
Vicky? Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm not a computer person.
I can take whatever's left too.
Sorry. Trying to figure out how to
Okay,
do
we
that.
do have to do a few things for the people who aren't here.
maybe
Right.
you could just color code the name
Oh, okay.
if you don't have room to write the names.
Yeah, that's good.
And that before when I had lists, I need to.
Okay.
Oh, I wanted to say that these sessions that are recorded, they will actually be on dental codology under consortium. There's an insiders thing on the I don't know if Patty's got the PowerPoint on here, but it'll be under consortium. And that's where you'll be able to go and look, because you're all members anyway, so you just go in there and look in the insiders part. And it'll be
Okay.
in the consortium part, okay? And it should be labeled, it'll be labeled as provider language and today's date. So that's how you'll find it, by date and name. Okay?
Yep.
And you're taking prosthetics fixed, right, Vicky?
Correct.
And then Natalie, you want the adjunctive general?
I can do that, the ortho and the oral maxillary surgery.
Yeah, because we still have Nancy and Connie and Desiree, so they can.
Oh.
They're also part of the group, so they can take, maybe those the rest of those.
That would be fine.
And then if they have a problem, we can always discuss it. Okay, so you've got adjunctive, and then Connie, Desiree, and Nancy. Do you know what they might like?
Does anybody know Desiree
What's
I
her
do
last
not.
name?
Richards?
No, I do not.
I do not either.
Me either, so.
I mean, if you want to give two and one, I don't have to do all three.
Right, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we could do 2-2. Yeah, why don't we do that?
That's awesome. Thank you.
Okay, adjunctive is Natalie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Gotcha. All right. And then, so what would you prefer, Vicky?
Oh, it doesn't matter. Half a dozen of one.
I know, yeah. You want to?
Yeah, that doesn't
Pardon me?
matter. It doesn't matter.
Let's see, 2, 4, 5. Yeah, I was going to say, why don't you keep the perio and the prosthodontics removable, and then I'll make
Okay.
these Connie. This one, I'll take it back to black. And this would be Desiree, sorry. Oops.
And then isn't there a Nancy? Yeah.
Yeah, Nancy
Yes.
Brohon.
Nancy can do ortho unless she wants to switch with me or, whatever. Yeah, Nancy Brohart. She was traveling back from ADHA.
HA. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Okay, so we'll go through and initial submissions ideas and possible coalition partners if you have any groups. This is our next meeting is the 3rd. I know that's right before the holidays, so we can always do a Dropbox and see what we found, and I can print up a PowerPoint on what we've all found on it, if you just want to upload what you found onto the Dropbox.
Can you tell me exactly how you want this put together? Do you want the old one and what our ideas are for the codes?
So like a little worksheet for us to go off of type thing?
Yeah, like, is there a process? Do you want the old one and then the new one? I mean, because that means we got to retype everything unless somebody has this and they can just forward it. I don't know.
Right. What do you think, Patty? Do we need to include the old?
I would, well,
Because I know they have to strike out. There's a portion
Right.
that we're going to need to
Correct.
strike out.
yeah, I would say at least to start with,
Okay.
I would do the code number and possibly the name.
That we want to change?
And no, well, the name is the nomenclature, but then underneath that, usually someplace in the descriptor, it'll say by the dentist or whoever. And maybe just put, if it says dentist, professional or provider or whatever word we think might fit in there better.
Gotcha.
And just, like a slash, like it says dentist, we want it to say provider. And just keep it really simple.
Right.
Because taking it all out, I will eventually get to that point. But just start with that. Those are just kind of notes. Like, we're going to find out there's, 143 places that these things occur and they need to be changed. Are we going to submit new codes for all of those? Oh my God. And yet, maybe we do and maybe we don't. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to come up with on this.
Sure.
But I
So
think let's
basically
just keep it real simple so that we know where they are. And then we can go from there.
Okay. So the
I
code.
think it seems to be, I don't know, you got to break it down to manageable pieces.
All right. So you don't want the original and then the one that we edit underneath.
Not the full description.
Okay. Okay.
Like the code
Like
and the
you don't.
nomenclature. So the name of the code.
Okay. So
Like it's D5213, maxillary partial denture.
okay.
Okay, and then, and by the way, it doesn't say this on there, but if it said the dentist, then we would want to change it to, I don't know what.
See, it says it
Licensed
starts in the general.
professional
Yeah, if the screen here, it says the language that states, and then we don't have to put this whole
Okay.
wording
No.
here, right? We just.
Not yet.
The responsibility of the dentist. So we just want to say the dentist and then make the suggestion of what we want to change it to.
Yeah.
In
And
red?
we may change our mind on what we want to change it to, but at least we know what it says. And it's the clinical oral evaluation, and it states the dentist.
Right.
Well, what happens? What
I'm sorry.
happens? What happens when it involves a code that the dentist is the only appropriately licensed person? Then we just leave it, or do we still want that looked at? Because you can't have someone do something against their license. So like,
That's
for example,
correct.
final impression on a partial. In California, only the dentist can do that unless you're an RDAEF.
Right.
So,
There was one where it said, here, the next screen where it says, we ask for the dentist to be substituted with dental professional in accordance with state practice acts. Is that the statement we want to use for that, or do we want to come up with another statement?
I'm that statement, but I think that there could be room for debate that didn't necessarily have to take place. Only because each state practice act might be different. So is someone expected to get a manual on their dental practice act and look to see about eligible duties? I mean, they should have that already.
Right.
But I'm just saying, I'm playing devil's advocate.
No, I understand. Yeah, and that's what they're going to do. Right.
That seems simple, and somebody goes, well, but why? But what about that? And but what about this?
It's too general. Hello?
Yeah, it might be too general. For some people, anyway.
So
That
maybe come up with suggestions on what we want, what would be. So my question, Patty, is do we have to have the same language for each of the areas where we have the dentist, or wording to that effect?
I think that's really difficult.
Okay.
I would say, see how many I guess I don't know. And believe me, I'm working fairly
Right.
blind on this.
Same
and
here.
I have the CBT here. I'm not the all knowledgeable one, but I would say start with, see how many places this occurs. Okay. List them by code name, code number, and name.
Okay.
Like it might be whatever. It might be oral evaluation, this one. And then say the name of the code, just the name, not the description, but the name. But then in the code, if it says the dentist, just put the dentist underneath that.
Okay.
Okay? And what we decide to do with it after that is another story.
Okay.
It's another stage. We just need to identify so that if we need to, in our defense, we can say there are 164 places where it says, sometimes it says the dentist, and sometimes it says the such and so, and sometimes it says this.
Gotcha.
And that's misleading and confusing, and it would be good to have them all the same, with saying perhaps, and maybe the word we'll use is the provider. And early in the CDT, they should say the provider is subject to individual state law. Who the provider is subject to individual state law. And maybe that's what we ask them that we want them to include. I don't know.
Sure.
And then there's another thing to consider. What about medical? What does medical do? How does medical get by this? I don't know. Do they say only the doctor can do this stuff?
That's a good question.
When we're looking for defenses and rationale and reasons, we have to think outside of, our little, well, only a dentist can do that. Well, maybe in your state, but in my state, somebody else can do it. And then that's when it gets so confusing. You don't know who's doing what. And when they say it in the code book as the dentist, does that mean if my state says it's okay and I do it, somebody's going to come back at me for fraud? Or maybe the insurance carrier isn't going to pay because I'm not the dentist.
Correct.
Although by state law, I'm
Correct.
able to do that.
Yeah.
Stupid stuff like that happens.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yep, all the time.
So that's kind of why I said just keep it really simple. Let's find out how much there is
Sure,
Okay.
and then go from there.
that's a good
I think it's
focus.
a jumping off point
Right,
without driving any of us crazy.
right.
Well, crazier.
Uh, I think that's about it. We meet again on the 3rd and the 10th, and like I said, if we have any questions, all our information is on the Dropbox, so if we need to contact each other or something, we can, do it by email or whatnot, if that's okay. So that's what we're going to be doing for next time, right?
Personally, I think that's a good place to start.
Right.
And that doesn't mean you can't be thinking of how you want to re-say it.
Exactly, yeah.
Don't kill yourself with
Right. Depending on how many areas. Teresa, I think you have the biggest because that seems to be where they say the dentist the most.
Right, right. And those, when I do a lot of remote and virtual audits.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah, my audit program is called Snapshots Prevent Mugshots.
Very good. Very good.
Pretty catchy, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I do that because, insurance fraud is rampant. And, but only really rarely is it intentional in order, as
That's
far
a
as
good
from
question. Yeah, I have a question for you.
felony basis,
Right.
that in federal prison. And they're doing it every day, all day, and they don't know. So I try to teach them about use the proper codes for what you do. And this is pay attention, and don't get sued. Don't go to prison because you won't look good in orange.
Yeah, we were talking about orange today. And I said, it's not the orange that's so bad. It's the jumpsuit part when you have to.
I know, yeah, that's what I keep thinking. Plus because it's short. We're short.
Yeah. So did you have a...
Teresa, I have a question.
Yes.
My previous employer sold his practice. The new employer is in. She has a new receptionist that she hired. The assistant and I are from the previous office. So they've been doing things that are different than the way they were done in the past, which I understand. But she doesn't post things right away. And that she worries about getting an authorization from the insurance company, knowing exactly how much they're going to pay. So she wants to wait until they've cemented it in, if it's a bridge or a crown or whatnot, and then submit it.
Some companies require that.
Yeah. Yep.
Some pay on prep, some pay on delivery.
Okay.
Yep.
So the fact that she's doing that in and of itself isn't terribly unusual.
Okay.
I personally wouldn't do it that way because you deserve to get paid for what you do. And since we have to wait for insurance in most cases anyway, we need to do that in a timely manner and correct. So we don't have, a lot of delays in far as processing goes. You need to have a clean claim the first time. And so all of those things make a difference. But if your team is well trained and they understand what they're doing on the front side, then there wouldn't be a problem with how much do they owe and is this going to be covered. You would already know those things. That patient doesn't sit in that chair without a financial arrangement.
Well, one of them did. And that's what it came to be such a confusing situation on a person. So, okay, as long as it's not fraudulent, that was just my concern.
Oh, no, billing on cement date is not fraudulent. A lot of them do that. Now, what would be fraudulent is if they manipulated that date. to make sure it was a benefit. Or, the patient was maxed, and so this is December, let's say it's December 15th and they broke a tooth. Or December 20th, they broke a tooth, and they're maxed already for the year.
Uh-huh.
You haven't since June because we maxed them out right away. And they don't want to pay for something, but the doctor wants the production for the crown. The patient wants to be done. It's a CEREC, so it's a one-stop shopping. They're just going to bill it out in January. Now that is fraud. That's blatant fraud.
Right.
But offices do it all the time.
Well, thanks for clearing that up.
Sure. Let me know if I can do some audits.
Well, thanks everybody for showing up. This will be on, the video will be up tomorrow, and then we'll get back in a week to just find out how many of the sites that we see have the that language.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank
And
you.
if anybody knows anybody who might want to help us with this, keep your ears open.
Okay.
Okay.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Hi, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.